Warning, incoming game over. Warning, incoming game over.
Hello, everybody. Welcome to Game Over Ottawa. I'm just gonna hi, I'm Charlie. Damian's with me. It's our first show together. I'm really excited about that. It's gonna be great. Really looking forward to this one. But I just got to do it because last time I hosted the show after a win, I forgot to hit the button until like 10 minutes in. So I'm just gonna hit the sends button right off the bat.
Please do.
Seattle Kraken. You guys just got Sens 3-0 win for the Sens. Great Saturday night. It's Saturday. The Sens won. Things are good. Things are feeling good.
Yeah, and around the league too, the B Sens picked up a win tonight, 6-2 on the road.
Yeah.
Toronto lost, Montreal lost, Buffalo and Detroit play each other tonight. No, that game did go to OT. I'm feeling good, man. Even this game, this game was great.
The game was great. Great night for the Sens in the standings overall. All great points you just brought up. How's everybody doing in the chat? Welcome to the show. As always, obviously we're going to be taking a quick look at the chat every so often, but the main point of interaction for the show with everyone watching will be in that fourth overtime period. So before we get into the game itself, I do just want to let everybody know that they should check out the flagship show of Game Over Network on the Game Over Network channel, and that is Hyperdrive Hockey. It's all things hockey across various leagues in multiple countries. Whatever it is and wherever it is, Max, Daphne, and Kev have you covered for all your hockey news with a steady dose of fun and fan engagement. You can find Hyperdrive Hockey on the Game Over Network YouTube channel or wherever you listen to your favorite podcasts on the Hyperdrive Hockey page at thegameovernetwork.com. Now, Damon, I don't know if you had a chance to check out their newest episode, but Max basically told everyone he's actually secretly a huge Sens fan. The Sens, according to Max, are the most fun team to watch right now, or most exciting. I'm just going to say that they're his favorite team now. So if he has a problem with that, he can talk to HR or whatever. But
yeah.
I mean, he's not wrong though. Like, as a biased Sens fan, speaking to another biased Sens fan, I don't know if you can say he's wrong. Like, whether the team is doing well or not, like you if you take like the fandom out of it, this team is so entertaining every night.
Oh, pretty much. Yeah, I haven't had there's been some blips here or there as the season has gone on, but so far not bad. Like, every game, I think the games that they've lost, I've said they have been their worst enemy. But tonight, it was just literally perfect, man. And yeah, this team is they're easy to root for, I think, for the most part. Led by Brady up front. Around the league, he's known as maybe one of the more different captains, but I think for the most part, people respect him. Right. And of course, people have said it for years now, the Sens core is young and they're going to get better. It's just about putting the damn thing together and making the playoffs for once, But yeah,
please.
it's a pretty easy team to root for. I think if I'm thinking from an outside perspective, maybe Cousins, obviously people wouldn't like him, or Ridley Gray. Yeah. But the games are good. Even in the years past, man, even when they've lost 6-4, they've scored goals at least, and it's been entertaining. But then, you still head out the door with 0 points on the board. Now it's just about getting the damn points in the standings.
Yeah, it's I hate to use the term good loss, because that's how I've described a bunch of a bunch of the games this season so far. As far as tonight goes, though, it's not tough to single out players that I think were especially great and I want to talk about. There really isn't anyone that I can look at and say, hey, this guy had a really poor performance tonight, just across the board.
No.
I mean, they looked great against St. Louis, obviously 8-1 win. They looked great against the Rangers in a 2-1 loss. I don't think they dominated quite as well in the third period as the first 40 minutes, but overall, I almost want to call this their best 60-minute effort. There's something about, I don't know what it is about this game. Maybe it's because they won, but maybe that's why it's maybe it's tricking my brain, but this felt like an even more complete game for everyone, even more so than the New York game.
Yeah, because the New York game actually, dude, that was like right up there too. I
Yeah.
wasn't on the post game for that, but so I'll just throw that game in there. The past 48 or 24 hours have been fantastic for the Sens. But yeah, like from a game from minute 1 to minute 60, like this team played really, really good tonight. I think Seattle was limited to 23 shots. And thinking about it, there was probably two really good chances for them. And it took until the third period for that, right? So one of them was the one timer that came on the right side. And
Mhm.
then I know like Evans hit the crossbar, but that's going to happen, right? That's going to happen. But there was really no defensive breakdowns. I thought their forecheck tonight was picture perfect. Like
Yeah.
they were working together as a synergy. All the guys were like they had the pace tonight too, but they also had the tenacity to like get in the corners and get those pucks. And I don't think that Seattle necessarily played a bad game, genuinely. Like
No.
I think that the Sens played that high and that good to like force the Kraken to make those defensive mistakes. And like we, Grubauer played good too. And the Sens kind of just push through and they capitalize on their opportunities because they can do that, right? They can score. They can
Oh, for
score.
sure. For sure. Yeah, like you said, so total this is on 5-on-5. From natural stat trick, 5-on-5, high danger chances were 8-3 for Ottawa. All situations 11-7, which makes sense. Both teams are going to be getting those high danger chances on the power play. But yeah, 5-on-5, complete domination by Ottawa as far as genuine scary chances. Shots and the expected goals were a bit closer than I expected at 5-on-5, but just as far as like actually scary moments of offense, the Sens definitely outchanced the Kraken. I do want to talk about Adam Gaudette a little bit, just because I haven't done a show since he's come out of nowhere and
Popped
scored
off.
6 goals
Yeah.
in 5 games. He is something else right now, and I understand like if it ain't broken, all that. And he is getting time on the power play, obviously, but man, like I don't know, I don't know about you. I kind of feel like I want to see him move up in the lineup. Like I don't want to see him only
No.
play with Cousins and McEwen at 5-on-5.
No,
Like
man. Like that fourth line's so good. That fourth line
I
is
mean
so
the
good.
energy on that line is crazy.
Yeah. I think he's capitalizing based off of him being on the fourth line, actually. Like, I don't move it. Like, don't switch. I think
Yeah,
Greg's getting better with that top line. They just need more reps, right? They've been substituting in Cousins and Amadio and
yeah,
um even like, well, I mean, Giroux and like I would say, man, just I know God, that's not your prototypical fourth line center, but like you need scoring in your fourth line. And like I don't want to like lay on guys like Kelly and Cass, like, but those guys, unless they got hot, like they're not known as scorers.
yeah,
But Cousins has in the past, right? He's scored like 25 points on the fourth line. Gaudette's done it, and McEwen, like, he's the bruiser guy, right? On the fourth line, he gets in the
yeah.
corners and stuff. I think it like. Sorry, I don't want to disagree with you right
No,
away
you
here.
can disagree
Like
all you
on our
want.
first show, right?
No, dude, it's
Um,
fine.
but I think it works. Like it works perfectly. We'll see how it goes as the year goes
Yeah,
on. But like those players work really well together, and they're involved in the game.
yeah, and I'm not. Let me check. I mean, like Gaudette only had more ice time than 3 other forwards, which like it's not the end of the world, I guess. Like I'm happy that he's getting the power play time and it's working out.
Yeah,
Obviously, I believe Gaudette leads the league in goals per 60 minutes right now,
it's
which isn't
hilarious.
surprising given like his ice time versus
Hilarious.
his totals.
Yeah,
But absolutely insane. And I don't know, like yeah, I mean I did like preface it with like if it ain't broke, I get that, but like man. And you know what? Like swapping him and a Stapchuk, I could see both lines playing like not as well if you do that. So maybe I think
yeah,
you're probably
yeah.
right. I just like man, he's playing so well. I don't know. I don't know if Travis Green is just the Gaudette whisperer or what, but um, you
He
know,
knows him, man.
yeah,
Right? Like they
he had
play on
he
the
had his
same.
best season under him
Yep.
in Vancouver, which I think was what like slightly over half a point a game in that season, somewhere
Hmm.
along the lines of like a little over 30 points, a little under 60 games. So if you can get like anywhere near that production from your fourth liner who can also Like, when's the last time the Sens had a fourth line center that you're like, yeah, throw him on the second power play? That's crazy.
I know, unless it's like a guy in a call up or whatever.
Yeah.
But like going back, right? You're thinking of Kastelik, you're thinking of Gambrell, like
Yeah.
Thompson, Nate Thompson. Remember Nate
Oh,
Thompson
yeah.
back in the day? Cedric Paquette. So yeah, like the
Man.
list goes on and on. Just
The
it's
depth has been
different
a
and it's
black
nice.
hole for a while. My God.
Oh yeah.
I also want to touch on Anton Forsberg a little bit because he is continuing his pattern of the season of stinker, great game, stinker, great game. He has now matched his season total from last year on shutouts with 2, just 6 games into the season for him. And you know what? I'm fine with the stinker, great game back and forth. It's going to even out to be a pretty solid number. As far as like his stats go, it should be looking pretty good if he can continue this by the end of the season for a backup that you hope will play maybe 30-ish games on the season, as long as Ullmark can stay healthy. And on top of that, the Sens have won 2 of his 3 stinkers. So, maybe it's a little bit of like, it's fine. This team now can like outscore problems that they're having. I don't know how long that's going to last. You don't want to rely on that for too long, but I don't know. It's still early, but like Forsberg, how are you feeling about Forsberg as, like a pretty, what seemingly so far, like, I don't know, reliable enough backup, I guess?
I'm feeling good, man. Like I know the Sens played fantastic in front of him tonight, but he made the
Right.
saves. Like, and he's been known to have stinkers go in to the net. Like in years past, and I mean, even happened this year, right? Where a random shot from like the hash mark will just like it will go on net, and he'll like not exactly track the puck very well, and it'll like go off his blocker and go into the net, right? Just a
Mhm.
weird goal, and it like kills the momentum of the play and like the juice in the team, right? But now you're seeing a guy who's getting reps. And I know like fans have been a little bit, um, annoyed at the fact that Allmark hasn't got as many starts as maybe they would have hoped, because I think some fans maybe think he's supposed to be playing like 60 games this
Right.
season. I
Which
don't
he's
think
never
that's going to
done.
happen.
Which he's never
No,
done, by the way.
no,
He's always been a tandem guy. So
yeah.
even in Buffalo, he was, like not playing a huge number of games there. So I don't know. I would have liked to see him have played more, but that's just because of the injury, right? Like
Yeah.
I don't know.
Like
I think if 50 games, I think is a completely reasonable a number of games to expect out of him.
Yeah, if you split it up 50 and 30, I think that's good. Because I think Ulmark, if you're paying him $8 million, damn, you got to be playing him, I think, more than half the games.
Oh yeah,
Right?
for sure.
But Forsberg, like, if he's playing well, man, like chuck him in there, because I think Forsberg's like ceiling isn't a starter goaltender, of course. And he's 31, 32 years of age. So he's sort of in the prime of his goaltending career, because they usually
That's how
develop a little.
goalies work. Yeah.
Yeah, right. They hit their prime at like 28. Um, so yeah, like Forsberg, I think he's more of a high end backup in the fact that he's not like a guy like I don't know, maybe Jonathan Quick, right? He's 39, 40 years of age. Like play him 20 games a year and he's going to perform well. But like
Sure.
Forsberg, you could chuck him in for I think another 10 games as the year goes on. And
Hmm.
as long as he's playing well, man, like he's fighting for a contract. So for Forsberg, like like if he starts playing like this, damn, he's gonna get more starts. And like I don't think fans will be, upset that Ulmark's not getting the net because they have the other goalie who they can rely on, right? It's very nice to see as a
Yeah.
fan.
And despite, how fantastic Allmark has been over the last couple of seasons, arguably the best goalie in the NHL over the last 2 seasons when you put them together.
Mhm.
He has no problem sharing the net given his time in Boston. So as long as I think that it can only be a good thing if Forsberg keeps playing well. Again, it's kind of back and forth, stinker, great game, stinker, great game. It's done that pattern 3 times now. And yeah, I do think that you had the great point too that the Sens just played so well in front of him tonight.
Amazing.
And he was helped out by a couple of posts, but that's just leveled out because the Sens hit a couple posts against the Rangers. It's just even now, right?
Yeah.
That's just karma for that one. So
It happens, man.
yeah,
Like it happens. And I mean, even the Colorado game, I know like his save percentage didn't look the best there, but the Sens just played like they played
yeah,
terrible,
yeah,
right? Watching that, oh my goodness. Um, Like that was a bad game from top to bottom. They got lucky that they even got through to the net at the end of the game.
Yeah.
But yeah, like I want to put all that on Forsberg. Ever since I guess the last bad game he had was, well, maybe even LA.
Probably LA. I mean,
He was fine against New Jersey.
New Jersey, yeah, he had hit like a 9. It was over 9-10 against New Jersey, I
Yeah.
want to say. Let me see here. Yeah, so yeah, Colorado 862. He had no help. Shutout against Utah.
Yep.
862 again against Tampa. Sens won that.
Right.
And
Yeah,
then
that was the last bad one. Yeah.
yeah, loss against New Jersey where he had a 914. And then yeah, LA was rough. So, if we're looking at it right now, call it, just purely from, if you're being as basic as you want to be with the save percentage and just like looking at that blindly just look at it with blinders on. He's had like 3 phenomenal games, 3 games where you probably want more out of him. In the sense of won 4 of those 6 starts. So,
Yep.
I mean, tough to be upset with your backup.
Dude, his record was 15-12 last year, right? He had a winning record, funny enough. Like, I didn't even realize that when I was looking at the stats, like last year. I was like, Forsberg had a winning record. Like, last year was bad for being a
Yeah.
Sens fan. It straight up sucked. And
It was
the
brutal.
fact that he got 15 wins out, like,
Yeah.
like, it's just nice to like watch a game and not be like have your heart rate super high up.
Yeah. Give it time, man. If they're still in the playoff hunt in the new year, it's gonna be like that. It's the opposite ends, right? It's like the team is so bad that like you're mid heart attack every time the opposing team has the puck in the zone versus the team is good. Oh shit, now I gotta be worried all the time.
Yeah. Yeah, it's gonna take some time, I think, but I think right now the team's sort of settling in now. We're past the 10-game mark, and I think it's funny. Like we don't have Pinto, we don't have Perron too. We'll see. Like I hope everything's okay with him going
Yeah.
forward. But Statchuk too, or a Statchuk, whatever you call him. Like with Pinto out for a little while, you might as well call up your guy who ideally should be playing on your third line going forward, right?
Right.
And
Yeah.
I think he's been a nice sub in. Like that line might not score a ton, but they're energetic. They're pretty good defensively, and a Statchuk has those those intangibles that you can put in the bottom 6. Right? He has the defensive awareness. He's a better skater than I originally thought. Just seeing him, like he's a big body. He's 6'3". Face-offs, obviously that's going to take time. But
Right.
when you pair him with Gregor and Amadio, those guys are all sort of like the two-way forward speed guys, maybe not Amadio, but they all kind of know their role and they're all on the same page. And then you have the fourth line, which is on fire right now.
Just
and then you have the top
pure
6.
pure energy on
Right?
that fourth line.
Yeah, it's a nice substitution, like because I think the Sens in the years past, like they've struggled to find the lines or whatever. At least knowing their roles, because there's a lot of moving parts, and now it's nice to see that you can get those 12 forwards out there and like have a fourth line that is trustable and can get involved in the game, right? Because you don't want to get to a point where you're playing Stutzla 23 minutes a night, just trying to grind out an extra goal, because we've seen that so many times in years past. So it's just awesome, man. It's great to see.
Yeah, it's quite a departure from the Smith Condra Greening fourth line days. Which was terrifying to watch any given night. They were always out with a 1-goal lead with 2 minutes left to out. Anyway, we're not gonna. Anyway, I'm just gonna get into a rabbit. I'm just gonna get stuck on that. This is your first show with me. You're gonna notice, and Maude will let you know as well. I'm so bad for like just going so off topic mid show. So with that, I think we're gonna wrap up our main talk about the game tonight. Unless there's anything else you want to add before we move on over and just talk about the decor.
I don't, man, because it would be one thing if I was a little bit nervous coming to this game because I thought it would have been a trap game.
Right.
It's Seattle, like don't really know a whole lot about them in terms of history and stuff. And I was worried a little bit. And we would have fallen behind in below 500. But man, it's just nice to like finish the game and just feel good and not really have a lot to break down and look at video.
It's nice.
And, like to crap on a player or whatever, and critique him. So yeah, just we'll pass on to the second segment here.
Perfect. All right. Well, right before we get into the second period, I do just want to let everyone watching know that the Game Over Network is obviously now an independent production, and it's focused on community inclusion and quality people. If you're interested in supporting the Game Over Network, we do have a few crowdfunding options available. In the description of this episode, you're going to find a link to our Patreon page, and we're also working on a page through LaRouche, which is a crowdfunding platform for companies originating in Quebec. For LaRouche, we're aiming to raise $15,000, and if we hit that goal, then we're going to be able to gain access to government grants that will allow us to employ more people, pay people for their work fairly. Everyone involved so far has done an incredible job, and it's really just a matter of, we want to make sure that everyone is getting their fair share. As far as I know, I believe the goal is to get LaRouche going towards the end of this month. So keep your eyes open for that. And of course, again, like I mentioned before, there is the Patreon, where we're still working on some different rewards for that. One of the first things we did was the first few people who signed up for that got to join our Game Over Fantasy League, which has been a lot of fun so far. I said this last show, I want to start doing updates on that. I think, starting next show, I'm going to do my best to do that, just because it's kind of fun to talk some trash live and
Yes.
put people on blast who are doing poorly in the league. But on that note, if you have any ideas for what you want to see as giveaways from these crowdfunding efforts, let us know in the comments on Twitter, Instagram, or of course you can join our Discord server and let us know there. And even if you don't want to tell us what you want in a crowdfunding effort, just join the Discord anyway. It's fun. Discord's down there in the description. It's free. Come join, hang out. All right, with that, let's head on over to period number 2. Let's talk about the decor. So obviously Zub has been out for a while, and so you're the one who initially wanted to talk about the decor, but I just kind of want to set up just a general outline here, because we now know for sure, like, just with the injury going on here, Hamnick is back with Sanderson, just like Sanderson's rookie season. He's getting flashbacks.
Yep.
Chabot, Jensen, I'm totally happy with that line. Jensen has really
Yes.
impressed me so far this season.
I love him, dude. Love him.
I can't believe he almost looks better like in transition than Chabot right now.
Yeah.
And then the third pairing of Clevin and JBD, I am blown away. Honestly, I am so impressed with those two. And if you go back to, I don't remember which episode it was one of the offseason episodes I did with Maude, where we were kind of looking at the defense going forward, and I was just like, I cannot handle this team having 5, 6, and 7 being Clevin, JBD, and Hamnick.
Mm-hmm.
I just could not see a solid pairing being made out of those three guys, whichever way you want to put them together. I am really impressed with the Clevin JBD pair. Clevin, I kind of look at, like, what is shocking to me, especially after watching JBD last season, is JBD seems to be the steadier of the two. Clevin, I'm impressed with him more often than I am with JBD, but also I'm like, oh god, dude, like, settle it down a lot more.
He's younger.
Yeah.
Right.
Yeah. So higher highs and lower lows, I think, with Clevin than JBD, but that pairing together has been so impressive. The only issue is, and I will say he had a good game tonight, but Hamnick needs to be off that top pairing. I don't know if his ice time has changed very much since being bumped up there, just because I figure the 5-on-5 time is probably about the same. I don't imagine it's too much, just because I think Sanderson's getting so much ice time, in power play and PK. But the issue, I think, is not so much maybe a huge boost to his minutes, but like the matchups, right? Being played with Sanderson, like Hamnick looked pretty decent at the start of the season, and by that I mean I didn't notice him very often, which is a really good thing for him. I think it's just now he's out there against the opposing team's top lines, and it's rough. It's rough.
Yeah, I mean, it's not ideal, right? But okay, so here's the thing, right? Chabot, Jensen, you're not touching that, right? You're not.
No,
give Chabot the entire year with him, right? So then the thing is that earlier in the year, we were talking about how Hamnick with Clevin was not really working, at least for the first 3 games or so.
For sure.
Because they're both two defensive defensemen, right? So getting the puck out of the zone was tough. Where JBD, I think he was drafted as a two-way guy, right?
Yeah.
And I think he's not going to wow you when it comes to being in the offensive zone. but I think he has the ability, like the natural ability to make that first pass at least. So yeah, like that's a thing, right? You want Zoo back in the lineup, but you got to treat a concussion like a
Yeah.
freaking baby, right? You got to take care of it, make sure like he's perfectly good to go. Um, so I think like I agree, of course. I think if when Zoop comes back, Hammond comes out, like it's funny because he goes from
Hope
the
so.
first pair, I guess, the
Yeah.
top four to scratch because JBD and Clevin work so well together. I think maybe some people are forgetting a little bit that like JBD is 24, right? He's 24. So he's not like a kid anymore, right? He should be he's played he played 72 games last year. Like he can work on that bottom pair, I think. He's not a
Yeah.
guy fresh out of college. And Clevin, he played the entire year in the AHL last year, and he's played NHL games before. So, like, there's going to be their nights, right, where they struggle a little bit, especially against the top, like, really good teams like Colorado, or not, maybe not Colorado now, but like the New York Rangers,
Yeah.
or Florida, right? We played both of them, and they fared well even there. So, like,
Yeah. Yeah.
I would keep them though, right? Like, you got to take out Hamannik. I think he's the whipping boy, but and he's
For
the
sure.
easy target. But yeah, like everyone was a +1 tonight, right? So
Yeah, and I don't know, like maybe this is me being like over the top about it because again, he had a solid game tonight. Hamnick, as good as the Sens looked, I think he was, without a doubt, the weakest player against the Rangers. So like even if Hamnick's having a night where he's on, then a night where he's off, which is better than expected going into this season. But when you're playing those really, really important minutes with Sanderson, you just can't do that. I almost wanted them to call somebody up and have Hamnick be the seventh guy, but I don't know who you put with Sanderson from Belleville because
uh,
who do you put there who's not going to be overwhelmed with playing against the top line against
yeah,
another team? Like it's a shitty situation for anyone to be
yeah.
in, being like, hey, you're going to play with Sanderson against the top competition in the NHL, and then they go, oh, okay. Shit.
Yeah, yeah. Like, here's the thing, right? Like, scratching Amnick's not going to help.
No.
Right? I know people are like, get him off the team right now. Send him to Belleville after like one little change up. And like, yeah, I'll say this: like last game against New York, I think he lost the game for us.
Yeah.
Because he blocked Allmark from seeing the shot from Panarin, the
Yeah.
top scorer in the league, and then he let a pass get through his feet for the
Yeah.
Lafreniere
He
goal,
was the
right?
last line of defense on both those goals.
Yeah,
If you don't include the goalie, obviously. I mean that he was a perfect screen for the first goal, and that second goal, he was covering half the crease and
Mhm.
it still snuck by him, which I mean it's a tough spot. Like if Sanderson let that
Yeah.
through his legs, I don't think I'd be like nearly as hard on him. Just it's a I don't know, it's a reputation. It's a
Yeah.
reputation based nitpick, I think, with him.
Yeah. Yeah,
But
like sorry, I
yeah,
just want to
like
talk about this comment here from Ty here. Like
sure,
JBD and Clevin need to develop chemistry to be a solid third pair going forward in the future. I agree with that. Like,
for
I
sure.
mean, I think for the most part, like players, the third pair, you substitute players in there because injuries happen and players grow,
Right.
and eventually they want to become like top four players, and they're too expensive to keep. But yeah, like they have familiarity to a point, Nodak, right? They didn't play on the same pair, I think, from what I know over there, but they
Yeah.
understand each other's game and they're not kids anymore, right? So now it's
Mhm.
just about making sure game in, game out that you don't get overwhelmed and you don't make be confident, right? Like don't go out there and be afraid to make mistakes. Play to your game for Clevin, right? It's like hit guys, use your reach, tie up sticks out front. Don't expect to score a ton. That's okay. You're out there for a reason. JBD, get the first pass out, block shots, have good hits. He's done that this year.
Yeah,
And he stepped in and he played great tonight. Like, um,
he
I've
did.
had no issues with him tonight. He's looking confident. That's the key. In past, he's looked, a little
Oh,
scared or
he looked
timid,
so
right?
shaky last season.
Yeah, yeah. But I think that's gonna happen, right? Like,
Oh, for sure.
you just need to like get through the first year in the NHL because it's hard, right? It's grinding. The good thing is he got reps, and maybe we found out that maybe he's not a top four defenseman going forward. That's okay. Like,
Yeah.
you got an NHL player out of him, at least to this point. So I guess shout out Dorian and the scouting staff there.
Yeah.
Um, like you'll take it, right? If you got
Oh,
an
for
NHL
sure.
defenseman in the late first round, that's okay.
Yeah, my main concern going into the season was the depth on defense, and all of a sudden now you have a third pairing that I thought was going to be a nightmare with a 24-year-old and a 22-year-old, and I'm so calm when they're out there. I'm like, oh,
Mhm.
this should be fine. So that's amazing. That's
Yep.
fantastic. And then when Zub is back, I mean Sanderson and Zub, Ottawa Senators bias, whatever. Like, I don't know how you can look at that and not think it's easy a top 10 D pair in the league. Like, I
Yeah.
genuinely think that
Like they're
they're not gonna be the highest
okay.
scoring pair, but I think defensively, plus you add
Yeah.
the offensive upside of Sanderson, and maybe a lot of that has to do with
Mhm.
his hot start this season. But
Mhm.
like, I think it's a fairly low event pairing to throw out there for a top pairing. It's not as flashy as a lot of teams, but
Mhm.
like I'm not worried about giving up
No,
too
you're
many
not worried
chances
about
to
them.
them, and I think that they're gonna outchance most top
Yeah.
units on another team.
Yeah, I like okay, I get what you're saying. Like I haven't thought about like as it being a top 10 pair, but the thing is that you can when you look at Sanderson and Zub, they play together, is that they both have the ability to defend
Yeah,
quite well and like be good at it. Sure, they have their blips here and there or whatever, but like
sure.
you trust them when they go out there. But then when you go in the offensive zone, both guys can score. You don't have the designated offensive defenseman like a
No,
Carlson and the designated defensive defenseman in the thought. Sanderson, of course, has a higher offensive ceiling, but you're not like if you're defending against them, right? You're not going to uh you're not going to put all your pressure on Sanderson and leave Zub alone because like Zub's useless on the offensive zone, right? He can score too. So it's a nice like well-rounded first pair and it's just about reps, right? And they got reps last year and they were great. So now it's just about going game in, game out
yeah,
and like it's going well, man. It's going well because they can distribute the puck out of the zone and they won't get hemmed in because of that because they have that offensive ability.
for sure. And maybe this is gonna age poorly because of how hot Sanderson's start has been this season with scoring, but you know, uh, it's entirely possible that you put their point totals together at the end of the season, and it wouldn't crack top five, maybe even top 10, top
Yeah.
scoring NHL defenseman. You know what I mean? Like, you put them together. By no means do I think that the two of them combined is going to be the scariest offensive threat on D out there. But just the two of them together are just so defensively sound. And if Sanderson puts up 55 points this year, I'm not going to be surprised. So I think I think there's you know a really, really stellar defensive pairing that we have not been able to see as Sens fans for far too long this season. And like you said, concussions are so tricky. Who knows how long he'll be out? But the Sens are looking so good without, their top pairing defensive
Mhm.
minded guy. So when Zub is back, I think we're in for a treat. As long as they don't split up Cleveland and JBD, I think now you have three pairs once Zub is back that you have so much more confidence in than God, when was the last time the
Hamonic.
Sens had three pairs that like you were just like,
Ooh,
oh, that's solid.
I
Like
can't remember it. I
that's
can't
crazy.
remember it.
No.
The only
'Cause,
thing I can
man,
not like I'm trying to go back in time. I mean,
dude,
I'm not
2017 friggin' Ben Harper was on there.
yeah, well,
So
actually,
like,
remember Harper was actually decent in that run there for a
yeah,
sec, but then the fun of CC pair, right? That was the one that didn't work,
yeah.
right? So you probably got to go back to the 2006-7 era where they had like three good pairs like Mazzaros and Corvo and stuff,
Oh yeah.
pricing like those good two-way guys. But here it's like you just have some stability out there, and we've seen some tough defensive players in this rebuild to
Yes.
watch. And I'm not going to say any names, but I think we can all agree that there's been some good defensemen like Sanderson and Shabbat that have not had the support on the back end. So I'll leave it at
Yes.
that. All right.
And which makes that the giant fumble that was trading Dylan DeMello for the sake of trading Dylan DeMello that much tougher.
Yeah. Yeah.
Um, man. Um, all right. I think we're gonna move on to our next segment here. But before we do, I just gotta let everyone know that they need to keep on or start watching Game On Ottawa. So obviously Game Over has you covered after the game, but in order to get ready to watch the Sens, you've got to get your game on too. Game On Ottawa is a short-form daily news podcast covering everything you need to know about the Sens, hosted by Michael Czar. Get all your Sens news in under 10 minutes, Monday through Friday, on the Game Over Ottawa YouTube channel and in podcast form, which you can find at thegameovernetwork.com/pages/Ottawa. So here we'll move on over to the third period, where it's the second game of November for the Sens on November 2nd. We got to talk about in November. November is a dirty word in Ottawa. November is the worst. So just a real quick recap for those who don't have the stats off the top of their head. The last 3 seasons for Ottawa, November has more or less killed the season, with the exception of last year. So if we go back to 21-22, the Sens went 1-10-1 in November. In 22-23, the Sens went 4-9-1 in November. Last season, the Sens went 4-5. They barely played because of the Sweden trip. There was just those 2 games in Sweden in the span of about 2 weeks. And they actually weren't terrible in December either. I think they were about 500 in December. So maybe you could even look at last year as like the November curse being lifted. I don't know if it's the November curse as much as like games, I don't know, like 8 through 20 is the problem. But the curse was more or less lifted from that last season. They were about 500 in that span, but obviously you're not going to make the playoffs being a 500 team going into the Christmas break. So obviously, like, it's November is an important month to make the playoffs. Yeah, no shit. That's the case for every team. But this team specifically, for some reason, has just been cursed around this time of year, where the season is usually lost by the end of the month of November.
Like it happens, right? And it's happened so often here for us, and you're just playing catch up, right? And I think last year, December was the tough month, because remember DJ Smith got fired right before Christmas, from what I can remember, on that road trip. I think his last game was against Colorado. No, it was Vegas, I think. But by that point, the losing just kept continuing, right? So November wasn't bad last year. I think this year, like, looking at the schedule, you got Buffalo, the Islanders, Boston, Toronto, Philly, Carolina on the road. That's probably a loss there in Carolina. But like, this team, they just sort of need to get out of their own heads a little bit, maybe. I'm not gonna make a prediction saying, like, I know what they're thinking in the locker room and stuff, but they hear the noise, right? They're in a Canadian market, and especially from the media too. Like, there's going to be questions about, how do you guys get out to a better start? And I think it's best for the players to just kind of brush that aside, be like, we know it hasn't been good in the past couple of years, but
For sure.
we gotta we gotta have a good performance going forward here. And that's why you add like the veterans and you have the depth. So like, if you're on Tim Stutzler or Brady Tkachuk's perspective, right? In the years past, they've been playing 21, 22 minutes a night, and playing without the lead too, right? So they're playing catch up. So they're just exhausted going out there every single night, and maybe not saying it, or maybe not even thinking it, but having players in the bottom 6 maybe not playing to the best of their abilities, or just not being good depth players. And now you sort of have that, I think. So it's more well-rounded, and you have more of a team game, right? So the mojo just goes up, because you can look at, being a guy from Tim Stutzler's perspective, looking down your lineup and looking at a guy like Zach McEwen and being like, this guy is helping out the team, right? So I think it's just about digging in more, right? It's about using your depth, and in years past they haven't had that. So I went on a little bit of a tangent there, but
No, you're fine. I was just checking to see they were 6-9 in December last year.
So that's still pretty bad.
That's still bad.
It wasn't as bad as I thought, but still bad.
It is nice. You're absolutely right. It is nice that I think it's safe to say that the era of going, oh cool, Chabot only played 28 minutes tonight is done. Like, that was, on a good night, you're like, oh, cool, he got to rest a little bit. He only played 29 minutes or whatever. Oh, brutal. Yeah, I mean, he did lead the. No, Sanderson led ice time for defenseman tonight with just a second shy of 24 minutes. That's a
That's
nice.
fine.
God, it's been a while since. It's been years since we've been able to like reliably look at that kind of number leading the team on D. Yeah, I just like, I don't know. Not that I'm ever, not being obviously a huge Sens fan on the show, but like just as a Sens fan, like just God, I need this team to be competitive still, and like give me first week of March within 5 points of a playoff spot, and it's such a low bar. I know it's such a low bar, but I just, it's been such a brutal several years.
Yeah, like, okay, you go back to 22, 23. That's when the expectations were there. Like, it's like, okay, you have to be in the mix at least. You might not need to make playoffs, but you need to be in the mix. They did that, right? They were there. I think. Remember that Columbus game? Like, we acquired
the first Chikrin game.
Yeah. And then I think after that, we went out to New York. No. We went out to Seattle, I think, and we won that game. And we were like 3 or 4 points out of the playoffs.
Yeah,
right?
in March. Like that was
we were there. And then they went out to like Chicago and they lost.
They lost to Chicago. Yeah.
And then the season, like they were kind of there, but the vibes were still decent because it's like, okay, the next year, that's when you have to make the playoffs now. And they didn't.
Yeah.
And last year they had 37 wins. This year, I think you need to make the playoffs, right?
Oh yeah.
But I don't
know if it's make the playoffs or blow it up, but like you got to make the playoffs.
If they don't make the playoffs this year, you are trading one of Chabot, Batherson, or Norris probably, because you would have to.
It's gonna be Batherson, and I don't think you should do that.
No, but you're not moving Timmy, Brady, or Jake
Sanderson.
Right?
Yeah, not a chance. I just don't know if, depending on, I mean, like they all look good. Chabot and Norris have contracts that are gonna be tougher to move. Batherson is on just such a good contract.
Yeah, sweetheart deal. I mean,
you got to keep that as long as you can.
Yeah, like regardless whether you're in number 1 in the standings or if you're the 8 seed, you need to get in. You need to get in because even if you get swept in the playoffs, you were there. You were there. That's all that the city wants. I don't know where you were back in 2017, man, but I'm 23 right now, right? Like just graduated university, 5 years of it.
Yeah.
When the last time the Sens made the playoffs, I was in grade 10. Like the time that goes on when you think of your own life to look back at that 7 or 8 years ago to right now where you are in life, you take a second to think of how long that is that this market needs playoff hockey. Like you can't rely on it being a Canadian city to keep your fans here. I'm sorry.
Yeah. I can here's what I'll say. I am 28 years old.
All right.
The Sens have had a single winning season in my 20s.
Yeah. So that would have been 2017, right?
Yeah. I was 20 at the beginning of the 16-17 season. And that's it. That's the only one so far. And man, like that was so fun. Like I think back to like, and I think I'm stuck on this because it's been so long since playoffs. But man, I went to Game 5 against the Rangers, the big comeback, Turris OT winner game. Yeah. And like, God, I miss, and I know like, my childhood was so like, just, I don't know, man. Like it was.
Yeah, you would have had some good years in there, like some
man,
to
like
start cheering.
A real privileged way of starting my hockey fandom, watching the Sens make the playoffs every year from 90. Well, I mean, like I was born in 96, so I don't remember the first few years, but they didn't make the playoffs. They didn't miss the playoffs basically in my lifetime that I can remember until 2009. So I was that would have been 2008, 2009. So I would have been 12, almost 13, the first
Mhm.
time they missed the playoffs that I can remember. So like
Yeah.
as a kid, you're like, oh,
Mhm.
this team rules.
Yeah.
Um,
Yeah, I don't want to get too off topic here, I guess, but like for me, right, I started cheering in the early when Carlson basically came in. So we had those years up until 2017 where it was like in the playoffs, out of the playoffs, in the playoffs, out of the playoffs. Like
yeah,
we were competitive though, right? And then bang, like this new rebuild hits. So I've known the Carlson era and I know the Brady era, right? So
yeah.
I
I
just want
figured I must be the old guy on the Game Over Ottawa team because
yeah,
I'm the only person who put down Alfie as their favorite player, not Carlson. So
yeah, I only watched him
um,
twice, so or it's for 2 years probably, Alfie.
yeah, nah, that's showing my birth date starting with a 19 on that one, I guess. Um, man, but yeah, all that to say, guys, please have a good November. They're off to an amazing November so far. They are only 500 in November, but that's 2 dominant games against. Well, like I mean, Seattle. I don't think Seattle's a contender, but like
No.
should be in the mix for the playoffs at the very least.
Yeah.
Really great game. The performance against the Rangers, like that was just unbelievable. So, off to a great start in November, despite only having 2 points to show for essentially 120 minutes of mostly domination. But just all that to say, it's November specifically for Sens fans. We need to see some kind of positive result coming out of this. Before we head into our final segment of the show in overtime, where we will take a look at the chat, take some questions. If you have any comments, questions, whatever about tonight's game or just hockey in general, the Sens, whatever you want to talk about, it's our interactive part of the show. Be sure to throw that in the chat right now. But before we get to that, while you guys are all posting your super hot takes that we will, be nice about in the chat, we're going to quickly talk to you about the fact that Game Over, we have merch. We've got some really, really great merch, including this one that I've got on right now. Let me just get over the QR code here. It's a sweet, sweet hoodie. I got both my hoodies in a couple days ago.
Nice.
Be sure to check that out because obviously, like what better way is there to support something you love than by rocking it as clothing? Game Over's apparel line has dropped with 3 unique designs. Whether you feel the nostalgic pull of our retro skater design, that's what I got on, want to make a statement with our established design, currently on sale, or you want to wear your love for goalies proudly with our live and die by the goalie design, or if you just need another cup of coffee to get through the winter, we have you covered. Designed by Brady of Game Over Winnipeg, use the QR code on stream now, and you can take a look through our apparel store and help us rebuild local sports media in Canada while repping your community. All right, with that one, let's head on over to overtime. Let's see what people are talking about in the chat. How do we feel about things right now? Have you picked out anything you want to take a look at off the top here?
Yeah, I will start off with Conrad. Krausert, I think is how you say it. Sorry if I butchered that, but Conrad asks, who is your favorite non-Alfie Swedish player in franchise history?
I mean, I think we got to take Carlson off the list.
Yeah,
too,
okay.
Right?
Yeah, we'll lump.
I think we gotta remove both of them because that's just an easy one or the other.
Yeah.
Oh, that is tough. That is really, really tough. I was so all in on Jacob Silverberg back in the day. But I don't think I can pick him. He's just because how short his time was in Ottawa before he was traded to Anaheim. Oh, do you have a name that like
okay, in recent history, when we think, Silverberg was a cool one. You got Zibanejad in there too, right?
Man, 2 players that were traded way too
I know.
early.
I know. Yeah, okay, Zibanejad, he wasn't here that long though. The same time, he never he never got me emotionally
so much
invested.
hype behind him.
It was more of just
overall.
The guy that you let go way too early, right? So
yeah, for some reason it cost him and a second to get Brassard.
Yeah. God. Anyway, okay. There hasn't been that you throw Brandstrom in there, but I'm gonna say this is kind of a random one, but Anders Nilsson. He had to retire early, unfortunately. Um, because of concussions. I think he was good for us in the really bad 2018 to 2020 era, and he provided some good goaltending. I know he was very like he was out in the community and stuff, right? And I think he was also a big supporter of Pride as well. Where I know a lot of hockey players tend to stay away from that stuff, and you know what, like they had the right to do so or whatever, like to not speak on it or anything, but he was involved in the community. And unfortunately his career just it stopped a little bit early. But for a lot of years where we've had not stable goaltending, he provided that. Albeit
For
in a
sure.
small sample size, but I liked him, man. I did.
Yeah. I don't know. I feel like it's cheating to say Allmark, but just like I've genuinely loved Allmark. Not even just on the ice, but off the ice. I've just loved his personality and just like how much he clearly loves just being around, just
Mm-hmm.
doing goalie stuff, just doing hockey. I love Allmark so much just as a guy. That is tough.
It's funny, like we only have known him for what, 4 games or something, 5 games, I think. He's like Forsberg's been the starter technically. If you go off of games
so
played.
far, yeah.
It's funny.
God, I don't know, man. This is a tough one. This is really tough.
There haven't been a ton of great Swedes, I guess. Like when you
No.
think of like recently and like, you know, top 6, top 4 defensemen, starting goaltenders under the Ullmark in the past couple of years. But you know, there's been some great, obviously historical Swedish players here in Ottawa.
Yeah, like I go like Magnus Arvidsson or whoever, but that's like before my time.
Yeah, exactly.
I could only name like players on the team probably starting like just before that 04-05 lockout. Like I would say I could name you 5 guys on the team when I was like 7.
Yeah.
God, I don't know, man. That's such a tough question.
Magnus Pajärvi. Magnus Pajärvi. He was there.
Classic.
He was a player.
No, I think I got to be boring and go Zibanejad. I was a huge Zibanejad fan. Hated the trade. Didn't hate it as much after the result of the 16-17 season. Because that would have been Brassard's second year in Ottawa, I think.
Yeah.
I think because that was a 2015 offseason trade. Obviously it looks horrible now. And so I feel great about my my love for Zibanejad when he was drafted. When I would have been just shy of 15 when he was drafted. So I was a big Zibanejad fan and still am to this day.
Yeah, he's good, man. I mean, like you think about when like all right, like Trey Stone, yeah, we know that was terrible just by all accounts. But
it was Dorian's proudest day as GM.
Yeah. Anyway, like we're past that, man. And so Zibanejad, it would have been nice to just have like a sort of guy in his prime, vet sort of player to, you know, play an important position down the middle too, right? In those years where he had to kind of throw Pinto, Norris, and Stutzla into the fire and figure it out, man. You're all young centers under the age of 23. Just go figure it out. And they sort of did. I don't think for all we, you know, give DJ Smith his, you know, the bad parts of his coaching tenure, he did sort of like give them confidence to do well in the league at least. And like,
I mean, how do you not have confidence when you have a guy gassing you up every single night?
Yeah.
Not letting you know that you fucked anything up. Like, I don't know if you noticed this. This was last season. I always go back to this where I can't remember who they were playing, but the Sens were doing something. They were getting absolutely just hemmed into their own zone. I had the roughest time getting the puck out, and it just the camera just happened to catch Kastelik going back to the bench, and Alfie just fucking
I remember that
into him about something, and he zooms in on Kastelik sitting on the bench, and he's just like, holy fuck, this is new. Like that hasn't happened before. You're like, okay, so this team has not been held accountable forever. This is crazy.
And that was the first game of the non-DJ Smith era, right? That was when Jacques came in.
Yeah.
And so that was like in the middle of the road trip, they fired DJ, right?
Yeah.
They needed to get that out of the way. And the first game against Arizona, they were up. They played amazing in the first period. They were up 3-0.
That's right. Yeah.
And then, like Jacques Martin said, that was the best period they had played so far that year. And then they allowed like 5 goals in a row, basically.
I remember that game.
Right.
I looked so dumb on Twitter. After the first period, I
Yeah.
posted a screenshot of the score and said, "Wow, what changed?"
Yeah, new coach
And
bump.
then by the end
Yeah.
of the game, I was like, "Okay, no, this is the same team. This is a nightmare."
Yeah. Yeah, I mean, like I'm just reading a comment here that DJ from Ty that DJ Smith was an amazing coach when the team was in a rebuild, and I agree because
Oh yeah, you need a guy to gas up your young
Uh-huh.
players and just give them all the ice time in the
Yeah.
world. It makes sense.
but then it's one thing to when you eventually have expectations, you get some leeway in there because you've gotten the team and you've developed the players. But then Smith probably had a year and a half there of a leash, right? Where it was like, okay, the
Yeah.
first year, if you get them in the playoffs, then you buy time, but he didn't. And the next year, when they were supposed to make the playoffs, and they added Tarasenko, Kubalik, even right
Yeah.
on paper. Who else did they add last summer? There was another guy. Corpusalo. Yeah, Corpusalo. Right. So
Yeah.
you're starting to bring other players in, and it just didn't work. Simply put, he couldn't
Yeah.
get us over the hump. So that's what Green's
God.
supposed to do, though, right?
Yeah, and actually on that subject, question from Adam Firebear in the chat here. Any insights on what you see as Travis Green hockey?
Sorry about that, Adam. I did not. Must have missed that one. Oh, there we go. I see it now. I'm still, at least from my perspective,
It's early enough that it's tough,
yeah,
eh? Like,
it's hard to figure out in a way. Like, he had a good, or not good tenure, but a longer tenure in Vancouver. Where I know there was a lot of things about defensively, like how the team played, but that's why we have Nolan Baumgartner in there as the assistant coach, or yeah, I think he's the assistant. In the past, where that's been Jack Capuano, who I straight up like, I don't think he worked well at all here.
no.
But there's the bump. There's a bump in the room when you have a new coach in there, and you see it around the league a lot, especially at the start of the season, where like the players, they want to prove themselves to this new coach, right? They
Oh,
want to
for
get
sure.
ice time, and they're packed up on adrenaline right now. And like, I know Adam Gaudette's being fantastic right now. I think, he's obviously going to fall back, but that's probably a player
yeah.
that's like, he's running at 100 miles per hour every single game because he knows he has a coach there that likes him, but then also he's trying to impress him again. And so you have the
He's trying to keep a
familiarity.
job, you know?
Yeah, he has that familiarity, but then he also has like, those expectations that he's trying to stay in the league. But then you look at like Stützle and Kachuk, like last year, there was a lot of times where it was just visible frustration. Even Giroux, right? The vet that you've brought in to sort of calm the guys down a little bit. He was frustrated as well. So it's just about not letting the highs get too high and the lows getting too low. So maybe that's what I can say about Green, is that it's like, all right, man, like put up or shut up, like that sort of thing. Because from top to bottom, and the organization, at least from an ownership perspective, this also has a big play in it. Where from the top, you got Michael Andlauer, who has expectations, and then you have Steve Staios, who also has these expectations to make the playoffs. Like, they might not say it, but they want to make it. And Travis Green, it kind of just trickles down, right? And you're starting to see with the players now.
For sure. Yeah, too early to really see, like I think you can obviously like immediately see the difference between a team that's run by Travis Green versus DJ Smith, or even with Jacques. But like, notorious for his absolutely brutal training camps, right?
Yeah.
And I think this is also a team that's probably just like terrified of the bag skate that's going to come after a brutal performance.
That's a good point. Yeah.
Maybe there's something to that. I don't know. I think when you look at DJ Smith being like, if you're balancing like the honey versus vinegar thing, like DJ Smith is like 95% honey, and I see Travis Green as maybe more like a. I don't think he's a tough coach to please. You know what I mean? Like I don't think he's an asshole or anything, but I'd put him at like a 40-60 honey to vinegar kind of guy. So, which I think is great. That's what like this team for the first time, this core, it is officially, I think, starting to get towards those prime years now. You gotta take advantage of that. And so because of that, you need a guy who's not afraid to let a player know when they fuck up. And when you're a young team that's, trying to get to the playoffs for the first time, you are going to do that a lot. So it's nice to have a coach that seems to, just like you said, it's trickling down, right? The management and ownership have expectations. Like you said, they haven't said that they're going to make the playoffs, but like that has to be the absolute, that's bottom of the expectations. It's got to be make the playoffs or bust this season. And I think clearly the Sens have a coach with the exact same mindset.
Yeah. A couple things that I'll say here in this final segment. One is that the ice time, I think, is, you just scale it back a little bit, right? That's one thing that DJ Smith, because he was also desperate to like keep his job because he heard the noise and stuff. He just kept throwing out Stützle and Tkachuk in the later parts of the game when they were down a goal. But you got to think here, right? The only time I can think of a time where the Ottawa Senators tied the game late in the DJ Smith era, like a late goal. You go back to the New York game 2 seasons ago when Tkachuk tipped that one in late from a shot from the point. It went in and then they won the game. When was the other time that they tied a game late? Like they haven't done it this year, I know, but like in the DJ Smith era, right?
Like how many times with DJ Smith behind the bench did they score with an empty net? Is it 3? Maybe.
I can't think of another time.
Yeah.
I can't.
I have no idea.
Right. So I think it's like with Travis Green, I know I don't want to like, harp on DJ here, but it's important to compare them. Right.
Oh yeah, for sure.
And so one thing is scaling back the ice times, right? You start with Chabot. That's a big one. Sanderson, making him the number 1 D, but also not giving him 27 minutes a night, right? You give him 24 because he has the ability, he has the stamina and stuff. And then you look at Stützle, he's playing 19 and a half. That is good. Good, perfect for a first line center. Tkachuk, 18 minutes. He's going to give 100% and he's going to be physical. I don't think a physical power forward like that should be playing 23 minutes a night. Just what I think.
No, you're burnt out by game 60.
Yeah. And then
you got nothing left.
Just like one important part is the depth as well. Like how much is the depth going to be playing here? So let me go through the players here. Ridley Gregg, 15 minutes a night. I think a little bit higher than maybe some would have thought, but I'm okay with it. Michael Amadio, 15 minutes a night. For a third liner, I know he hasn't been perfect this year, but he's given good, solid defensive minutes. Noah Gregor, 13 minutes a night, right? He's pushed up in the lineup.
That's right about right. That's right around. Yeah.
Cousins, 11, right? Good. And then McEwen, who started off with like 4 a night, he's now up to 8. But he's also just playing great. And then you throw in Gaudette there, who's at 11, right? So if the fourth line is playing 8 minutes a night, game in, game out, they have no confidence. And they're just kind of guys out there that are doing nothing almost, unless they're physical or something, but they're scoring and they feel involved in the game. That's the thing that I think Travis Green has done the best at so far this year.
Absolutely. Man, I think that's a good spot to end it. I think that's a good spot to call it a night.
Feeling good.
Really happy. Yeah, really happy I got to watch another win. It's been good so far. I've done a couple shows in the last couple of seasons that have been really, really rough. So Hopefully the Sens keep. I will say though, for me, I think maybe it's just because I had a lot more practice with it. It's a lot easier for me to run a show when I'm mad. It's a lot easier for me to
Oh,
run a
yeah.
show when there's a lot to complain about. When it's all good stuff, I'm just like, whatever. I can be a homer for an hour. It's fine.
But we're not
Um,
used to like watching a game and just being relaxed at the end and being like, yeah, that
Yeah.
was cool. Like, good job, Sens. We came up with a win and that's it. Like,
Exactly. Exactly. Um, yeah. Well, had a blast finally getting to host a show with you, Damien.
Oh, yeah.
That was a good time. And obviously, thank you everybody who's tuned in live and everyone who's tuning in after the fact. And if you're tuning in after the fact, can I suggest, hey, if you got the time, you should tune in live. It's a great time. A lot of interaction between hosts and the chat, whoever the hosts are, whether that's going to be on Game Over Ottawa or Game Over any Canadian market that you prefer. And obviously, I mean, I think you should just watch as many of them as possible. We have a great team. We have a great group of people hosting these shows, and they put a ton of effort into it as well. So be sure to check out every other Game Over Network channel. Obviously, that being the hub channel, and then we got a channel for every single team. We got a whole bunch of channels now. We're spread out, and go subscribe to all of them because they're all worth your time. With that, I can find a way to ramble on for forever here at the end of the show. I'll just say good night, everybody. Go Sens, go, and we'll see you next time. Have a great night.